Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. My homage to the worthy one, the blessed one, and the fully enlightened one. Namattu Ratanatayassa, my veneration to the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and together with Arya Sangha. My great respect to Venerable Mahasangha, dear devotees and friends of the universe. Greeting everyone. Today we come back on the Dhammasandana Dhammika Live Dhamma Talk, which is normally conducted on every Friday, but today we have a special version that today we are broadcasting on Saturday. And we have come up with the topic of overcoming fear and phobia, because we believe that this is one of the important topics to be discussed, since we are living in the world right now where there are a lot of disturbances caused by fear, and some even become phobia, that people feel very intensive scare of so many things in life, especially within the pandemic regime. A lot of people are getting scared and fear of the infection, of the spread of virus, and especially on the daily basis that people usually face fear, not just ordinary people, but even not just lay people, but also the monks. We also have fear on daily life. But to really understand what is fear and phobia, and how do they originate, and how will we overcome them, we have invited two most venerable speakers. And firstly, I would like to introduce to audience that we have invited most venerable Kassapa Khamra, who is the Executive Director of the International Cambodian Buddhist Center in Sri Lanka. And right now, Venerable lies from Vipassana Turya of the Cambodian Vipassana Turya Buddhist Center of the Kingdom of Cambodia. And Venerable has been sharing and teaching many meditation courses and Dhamma online for a number of years, and has also led many training concerning with the mental health. And on the other hand, we also very privileged to have invited most venerable Vajrapanyao Sopheap, who is lies from Wat Koldateng, Nikrotawan Koldateng, Phnom Penh, Cambodia. And Venerable, as most of people know, that he's been very active and dynamic in promoting the Buddha's teaching on social media and also throughout Cambodia. So we are very privileged to have both Venerable joining us today in order to share concerning with this topic. So without further ado, I will start the first question with Venerable Kassapa Khamra, who is right now live from the Vipassana Turya of the Kingdom of Cambodia near Phnom Odong. So, Venerable, would you kindly explain what is fear and phobia? Thank you.
Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. May my homage to the Buddha, to the Dhamma, to the Sangha. Very good evening, everyone, and very respectfully, dear Venerable Vajrapanyo Sopheap, Venerable Munipoto Theavy, and other Venerable Sirs who are watching us online. And dear devotees around the globe, my friends in Dhamma. And at the inception, I would like to express my gratitude to Venerable Theavy for inviting me to be a co-speaker with Most Venerable Sopheap. So it's a great honor, it's a great pleasure to be with such well-educated speaker. So the topic today is about overcoming fear and phobia. So before approaching the treatment, or we can call it the psychotherapy or the psychotherapeutic techniques to overcome fear and phobia from a Buddhist psychological perspective and from the psychological perspective, let me explain the meaning or the definition of fear and phobia. So, I mean, as you know, we are ordinary human beings, so fear is natural and it is innate that every single of us has to experience, except the arahant or the person who has reached the enlightenment. So from the psychological perspective, fear or phobia are two different animals. So fear is very natural to experience, but when the fear becomes phobia, so it is called the sickness. And there are many technical terms in psychology. According to the DSM-5, phobia can define as the extreme fear, or we call it irrational fear, or another term is aversion to something. So fear is, as I told you, fear is very natural, but when it becomes a phobia, it is very excessive and it is very irrational, and it's kinds of aversion too. So when the fear is becoming a phobia, so it has its own unique features, or we call it characteristics. So the fear is very persistent and chronic and very acute, and very compulsive and very obsessive. So when the fear in the state which I have been describing, it's become phobia. So, and phobia is very very severe, and it is very have a huge impact on our life. So this is the definition from the psychological perspective. But let me briefly elaborate the aspect of in Buddhism. So according to Buddhism, there are two kinds of fears, or we call it unskillful fear and skillful fear. So, but today we are not talking about skillful fear, we are talking about unskillful fear. So, and from the Abhidhammic point of view, it's a cetasika, or it's mental object, and it is a part of the aversion. Aversion, we call it dosa. So this, from the Buddhist point of view, and it is natural, it is innate to experience, to have the fear, because we are ordinary human beings. But in Buddhism, we are trained, to encounter in a peaceful way, when the fear is arising. But as ordinary human being, it is okay to experience the fear, but we don't let the fear to control and to to dominate our life. So that is all from me. So thank you very much.
Sadhu Pante Kasapa for sharing your great perspective from psychological perception. So right now, let's come back to Venerable Vajrapanyaku Sopheap. From your point of view, from like daily life perspective, how do you define fear? Thank you, Pante. Please. Please unmute yourself, Pante. Yeah.
Respected venerables and hi to all devotees and the listeners. And thank you very much for inviting me to be part of the conversation today. I think that the definition provided by Venerable Khamra is good enough to be understood, the term fear. So in common sense, fear is generated through unknown. You don't know it, and then you don't know that person, and you're going to meet him or her. You fear. You get scared. You go into the dark place, so you don't know that place, so you get scared of that place. Or you don't know what to do that kind of job, and you are going to take responsibility to complete that task, and then you fear of that. That is, as Venerable Kaspar already mentioned, is it's a natural phenomena that always occurred in our normal human being. So I would say that fear from the unknown. So when you know something and you know how to do it, and you don't get scared of it, so you can overcome fear. That is just my short, maybe just small additional understanding about fear to Venerable Kaspar. Okay, thank you.
Sadhu Pante for sharing your additional information concerning with the definition of fear. But let's get into it a little bit more about fear. As we know that we cannot avoid fear on the daily life. Either it is a specific or simple fear that we face. But some people, having faced a repeated fear in daily life, so it overcome them, it overwhelm them in a way that they become so scared, so intensive. Sometimes it can cause as trauma, it can be a phobia. But I would like to know, either from the psychological point of view or the Buddhist point of view, Venerable Kaspar, can you have elaborate a little bit more on how fear and phobia originate? Yes.
Thank you, Venerable Sir, for the question again. And as I mentioned earlier, it is very complicated topic to be elaborated, to be addressed in a short period of time. But anyway, first let me explain the psychological perspective of origins of fear, and how fear is, or phobia is, originated or triggered. So according to the psychological point of view, and according to the researches have been done so far by the psychologists, and it's still yet, psychologists haven't known yet what is the real cause of fear. But according to the studies, they suggested that among the reasons, among the causes triggered the fear, or let the fear, or let the phobia cause is, one thing is the social learning. During our childhood, we were petrified or terrified by a doll, saying that don't go into the darkness, there is a ghost, and don't do this, the demon will come to you. So it's kinds of stuff. I mean, our parents kept saying to us during our childhood. So from this perspective, it's about socialization. I mean, social learning is a part of triggering or causing the fear to occur in our mind from the childhood. So this is one reason, and another reason is the negative experiences we have been exposed to. It can be a traumatic experience, like quarreling or domestic violence, and it's one, and or any domestic violence. I'm sorry, not domestic violence. I mean any bullying during your school age, when you are young, when like you went to school and sometimes you are bullied by someone, and sometimes when you are in the war area, or so, I mean, you can be petrified by the scenario. So I mean, this is how the psychologists address, I mean, how fear and phobia occur in our mind. But let me say this again, but just having fear, it is okay, but psychologists suggest that not to turn it out to be phobia, because there are many technical terms to recognize the phobia, and like generalized anxiety disorder, we call it OCD or panic attack or PTSD. So this is from the psychological perspective, but from the Buddhist perspective is quite different from the psychological perspective. And in one discourse, we call it Bahaya Behera Sutta, Buddha said that the real reason of causing the fear or phobia, we call it dread or terror, because of our impurified threefold doors. One is, our physical and verbal and mental action. So when these threefold doors are not pure, I mean impure, I mean we tend, or I mean to feel the fear or feel being petrified. But according to the Buddhist perspective, fear doesn't originate alone, and it always originates in the combination of other mental defilement like doubt, as Venerable Sopheap mentioned. One is doubt, hostility, aversion, and skeptical doubts, and so on. So I mean, and there is also another point of view from I mean another discourse, that association or being in a petrified or terrifying environment is another cause to develop our fear in our mind. So that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Sadhu Pante for sharing very detailed explanation concerning how fear and phobia come from or originate from. Right now, let's come back to Most Venerable Vajrapanyao Sopheap. I know that fear is a basic common feeling that people face in daily life. There can be many types of fear that people face on daily basis. For example, some people are afraid of darkness. Some people are afraid of ghosts. It's a specific example, So I myself used to be afraid of ghosts when I was young. But right now, I think I can consider myself as better, very much better, since I started to understand the truth about what is ghost. But I would like to ask Venerable Sopheap, from your point of view, why people fear of some specific situation like you mentioned about the darkness, or some people may be afraid of ghosts. Are you also afraid of ghosts? Can you say where this fear come from?
So, my own feeling, one kind of animal that I'm afraid of the snake. Yeah, pretty scared because maybe at a young age I used to get terrified by the snake, so that's why that feeling always come up to me. Yeah, the darkness, yes, of course. I think maybe many people get scared of the darkness. But I would say I listened to Venerable Kaspat talk in detail about the causes of fear and phobia. I would just raise one point related to the, maybe we call it the impure mind or the imbalanced mind. So we are not able to face the reality. We just imagine the thing that is not real, some person. Maybe some people live in the past, the bad past. They still carry it along and then feel bad about it, and then it generate more bad feeling, and it terrify him or her again and again and become phobia. I would say that if we learn to have a balanced mind, it would help us to overcome fear or phobia. But it's not that easy. But I just want to add on a little bit to Venerable Kaspat, just talk about the causes of fear and phobias is imbalanced mind or impure mind, or having no ability to accept the reality, and that generate more fear or become a phobia later. Thank you.
Sadhu Bhante for your explanation concerning with that. So you talk about the imbalanced mind and impure mind, just like Venerable Kaspat has already mentioned that from the defilement or from the defiled mind, it can produce the idea of fear. Even sometimes the situation might not be real, but we also already get scared. Sometimes the event not happened yet, but we already have the fear within our mind. So let's just come into a little bit more detail concerning with how the fear arises. So Venerable Kaspat, you also talked about the defiled mind, impure mind can generate the fear. Can you give some specific example in a situation where fear become more generated due to the mind which is impure? Please.
Yeah, thank you, Venerable Sir. So, as Venerable Vajrapanyo Kusupyep mentioned, and as the question has been raised by you, in terms of impurity of the impure mind, it is about when we are not mindful of the situation is one thing, and when we are not mindful of our own mind, it is really easy for fear to arise. So, for more information, let me explain you the characteristics or the features of fear from Buddhist perspective. So fear in Buddhism is unskillful, and because it is imaginative, or it is imaginative and delusional and hostile and covetous. So I mean, from this point of view, fear only arises from the from the impurity of the mind. So that is why the Buddha, I mean, according from Buddhism, like tanha yati soko, tanha yati bhayam. So I mean, the core cause or the core origins of the fear is craving or attachment, because as human beings we are attached to life. I mean, we want to live. We attach to live. So that is why the fear arises, and the Buddha also mentioned in another verse that sabbe nasanti dandasa sabbe bhayantu machuno. So like it's as I told you, it is natural for every single of us to experience the fear that we are that we are afraid to die, that we are afraid of death. So the reason of experiencing the fear is because we still have the attachment, and we still have the craving, or as you know, that the strong desire towards our five aggregates. So this is the viewpoint of Buddhism, the real cause of having the fear or phobia. So yeah, that's all from me.
Satu Pante, thank you for your very detailed explanation, especially from the Buddhist point of view, where you talked about attachment, which is also the root cause, which brings fear. If we don't have attachment, we don't have fear. So for those who are arahant, who have attained complete enlightenment, there is no fear for them. But for us as a worldly beings, Patujana, we still have fear concerning with many things in our life, like the fears of losing what we have, the fears of not getting what we want, the fear of separation, the fears of danger. You know, there can be many kinds of fear in life. But let's talk about from what the Buddha taught when he expounded that as a bhikkhu who see fears of the samsara dukkha, or the suffering in life, and that is why a ordained monk or the bhikkhu who have become ordained in the Buddha Sasana should see the fears in this samsara and then endeavor, try their best to liberate themselves from the dukkha. So, Venerable Vajrapanyaku Sopheap, what is your idea concerning with the Buddha's teaching when he taught the followers to see the fear as the danger, and the fear not necessarily be from the external sources, but the fear within ourselves, like our own defilement? We should see the fear, we should see the defilement as a fear, as the internal enemy. And that's what the Buddha advised to the follower, to get rid of fear within ourselves. So what is your understanding of this, with this point of view from the Buddha's teaching? Yeah.
So thank you very much for your question. So we experience fear and phobia for some time, and another fear that we're supposed to have inside ourselves is the like Venerable Kaspa already mentioned, is skillful fear. So you're afraid that there are a lot of impurity inside your heart, like greed, hatred, delusion, jealousy, and all others impurities in our mind. Those impurities in our mind generate unskillful actions, unskillful words, and what we call akusala kamma, which bring about the very unhappy fruit after. So that is good to be fear of those impurity in our heart, and we need to try our best in eradicating or reducing all those impurities. The more we get fear of those things, the more commitment we put into our practice, and the more we practice, the more we dig out all the impurity from our mind, and we will be happier. Like you might get scared out if you get angry a lot and you burn yourself so much, and you live in suffering, not in the next life, but now you get jealous, you talk bad about others, you feel bad yourself, and you're supposed to be afraid of those impurities, because that hurts you more than anybody else. And when you're aware of the impurity which stay in your heart, and then you become more vigilant in taking it away. You practice more, you put more effort, you read more, you listen more, you meditate more, you associate with more good people. So that is good thing to be fear of, if in terms of defilement or kilesa inside our mind. Thank you.
Sadhu Pante, for your answer concerning with the cause and source of fear, and as much as I could catch up with both Honorable has already shared, that let's put it in a simple word, that there can be a negative fear and positive fear. So negative fear is the fear that can overwhelm us, and we cannot get success due to the negative fear. But some positive fear, the fear which can lead us to try more on our work, and some fear can be alertive to ourselves in order to protect ourselves for safety, like fear that the Buddha expounded to the follower, that we should see dukkha as fear. If we don't acknowledge or accept that life is suffering, we don't see suffering, then we don't see the fear, then we would not want to liberate ourselves from fear. And that is a good point from the positive fear. That's what we call positive fear. But right now, let's talk about negative fear. So Venerable Kassapa, in case of negative fear, what can it lead to? How can fear and phobia cause disadvantage to one's life?
Yeah, thank you again for the question. As I mentioned earlier, among the characteristics or the features of the phobia, and as you mentioned that we are discussing about phobia or fear as the mental sickness, and so there are commonly accepted features. One is very excessive, and another one is very acute, and another one is very persistent, another one is very severe. I mean, to let the fear to become phobia, according to psychology, they believe that the fear of phobia must have a huge impact on our life. So when I'm talking about life, it can be educational life, it can be professional life, it can be family life, it can be relationship life. So phobia has a great impact on every aspect of our life. So like for example, if you are a manager, or you have ambition, or you know, a goal to be a public speaker, but if you have like kinds of social phobia, like you cannot go to the big gathering, big crowd, like you feel of being judged by the crowd. So this is where the fear, you know, prevents you from becoming a great public speaker. But it's still not yet a phobia. But if you keep, you know, pushing yourself not to go forward to speak, and like you let the fear control yourself, if you let the fear manipulate your professional life, and this is the big issue, you will be in a huge trouble that you cannot move forward to be a great public speaker. So this is one example. So overall, phobia has very huge impact on every aspect of our life, as I mentioned earlier. And from the biological perspective, phobia will become a panic attack. So when we are talking about the panic attack, it's related to the biology. So I mean, every single of us know it very well about the heart attack. So heart attack is one result of having excessive phobia. When your mind is not that ready to accept the reality. So is one thing. And another big issue is the phobia will make a huge damage in your relationship. For example, relationships with friends, relationship with family, with anyone around you. Like you like to be in your room, you like to remain silent, you like to remain, you know, isolated. So when the fear or phobia over control you, this is what happened to your life. Everything will be chaotic, will be problematic. So this is the huge impact of a negative fear, or we call it phobia. So that's all from me.
Thank you, Satu Conte, for your very well informative concerning with this point of how fear and phobia can damage to our life. So let's turn to Venerable Vajrapanyo. In your understanding about you know, fear that we face on daily basis, does it lead to any disadvantage in life, and can fear kill us? Just specific example. What is your explanation on this, Pandit?
Thank you. So sometimes people have a repeated negative imagination that can hold them not to accomplish what they want. For example, they want to do something, and then they just sit and imagine something bad to happen to them, and then they get stuck and they don't want to do it because that negative imagination blocked them from doing things. So I would raise a word in Buddhism, what we call ayoniso manasikara. Inappropriate attention means you generate more negative feeling again and again. So you transform a very small bad situation into a bigger one, a giant, a negative thing. Maybe sometimes it's not real. And if you stay in that stage of negative imagination all day long, it causes you stress. It causes you phobia, and then maybe you get tired of living. I got many messages in Facebook from even young people. They just get boring of those very bad feeling, or boring, or getting scared of so many things in life. They almost commit suicide. And unfortunately, they have a chance to listen to the Dhamma so they can recover back. So that is what I can say. I think the Venerable Kassapa already mentioned about the damages made by phobia, like hostile relationship, maybe cause the damage in the workplace, or mentally you get sick, and then it causes physical sickness too. Thank you.
Thank you, Ante. Yes, it is really very true. I also witnessed some situation where people really get, phobia. Some people, they fear of the height. They cannot, even hearing the word getting on plane, they started to get shocked, and they afraid of, going to the higher building, like the skyscraper or something. They feel very afraid of that. Even just to hear the word, they get shocked. Some people, they have the experience of, getting drawn in the water. So when they see the water again, whenever they see the water, they started to get shocked. So there can be many such situations where people get really very intensive fear, what we call phobia. So this is some specific example that we have been discussing. So right now, let's come back to the ways and methods to overcome fear and phobia. When we see that some fears lead to the disadvantage, bring disadvantage, and can cause damage and bad effect to our life. So how can we overcome fear according to the psychological perspective and Buddhist perspective? Please, Venerable Kassapa.
Red, orange, yellow.
Yeah, thank you again for the question. But before answering the question, let me mention this. Wheresoever the fear arises, it arises, in the fool, not in the wise man. This is what Buddha has said. So from this perspective, and let me add to what Venerable Vajrapanyoku Sopheap said, that the Yoniso Manasikara, the wise reflection, is very important when it comes to the we don't say the curing, but we can say the healing the fear or phobia. So building your right attitudes or wise reflection is the most important when it comes to healing your fear or curing your phobia. So in the light of this perspective, in psychology or in Buddhism, using the same techniques, even in psychology, we have many therapeutic techniques, but let me elaborate only the techniques that can be used by every single of us. So among the techniques, one technique is, we call it CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So in CBT, what we do is we try to change your mindset. And as I told you, the fear is very irrational, is very unreasonable. So in CBT technique, what we are trying to change is change the mindset of the person who are experiencing fear to be rational. Like we use the technique called it rationalization the fear. Thinking that what you are afraid of is not realistic, and it is delusional. So changing the mindset is one perspective. So from this point of view, like Buddhism use the same technique. In Bhayabhera Sutta, Buddha used the same technique when he is in a very dark night and meditating. He was hearing the sound of the peacock or the branch falling down. So the fear and the dread arise in him, but he used the same technique. The Yonaso Mansikara, and specifically he used the mindfulness. Like when you have mindfulness, like you don't let even not only the fear, you don't let the mental impurity like anger, aversion, and fear to control yourself. You try to be aware. You try to be mindful what is going on in your mind. And so this is the Buddhist technique. And another technique using by psychology is behavioral therapy. It kinds of we call it exposure. It can be exposure therapy. Like the clients or the patient must be trained to expose themselves to the real environment. If we are afraid of snake, you have to expose that person to see more. The snake. So when the more you see, the less you will experience that the snake is not dangerous as we imagine. So this is the technique. But in Buddhism we use the same thing is sila, like morality, like we try to impure. We try to pure our physicality, observing the seed. So, and we can use metta. And as I told you, there are many techniques from Buddhist perspective. One thing we can use metta, keep practicing metta meditation and vipassana meditation to change your mindset. But according to the Dajjaka Sutta, like you can use the reflection of the qualities of the Buddha. You can remind yourself by thinking of the great qualities of the Buddha, of the Dhamma, and of the Sangha. So there are many techniques in Buddhism, but simply the main purpose of every technique in Buddhism is to change your mindset, as Venerable Sopheap said, because fear is very delusional. So we must change it to be realistic, and we must be wise to change our fear. So that's all from me.
Sadhu Pante, thank you for raising so many points, which is very helpful for us to fight fear and phobia. And I catch the point where you talk about getting fear of snake. We could use the exposure therapy where we try to witness more the image of snake or either the real snake, so that we can get used to it, not to be afraid of it. And in Seattle, Washington State, where I live right now, we are very fortunate. We have, all friendly inhabitants, which means even the snake in my state is friendly snake. That's what my teacher told, when I attended college here. So teacher told us that even the snake in this state, they're not poisonous. They're very friendly snake. So I could feel the kindness when hearing her talking about it. I think that this is a good way that we can generate our metta, loving kindness to all beings. If we think that all the snakes are poisonous, all the snakes are unfriendly, barbarous, are dangerous, so we will generate more hatred and double the fear. Whenever we see the snake, in our tradition, I believe that most of people do the same way I did when I was young, because we learn from our elders. When we see some animals which we used to harm them just in the sake for our own safety, we feel like, okay, there is a snake, okay, throw the stone at them, that's what our elder taught us. So I think that's not a good way to do it. For our own safety, we kill others' life. That's not a good way to do it. There are some lies which are very good, which are very friendly, and they also want to live, want to be happy just like we do. So in this case, I think it's a good idea to learn not to harm other beings simply due to your own fear. Now let's turn back to most venerable Sopheap. From your point of view and your experiences concerning with how to overcoming fear. For example, let's just take one specific example. For me myself, when I been in a crowd, in the public places, addressing or preaching Dharma to many people in the crowd, sometimes I feel fear, I feel nervous of not doing well in the talk. But I think you've been so many, in many conference or many crowd places giving Dhamma talk. Have you ever had fear and like nervousness in giving the Dhamma talk, or fear according to the situation that you face in life? How do you overcome them, please, Pandey? Unmute yourself, Pandey.
Thank you. I noticed myself that when I was invited to speak at the conference, if I don't have enough sleep, it causes me some fear and maybe stressed. So it's important to have good sleep before attending any conferences or meeting. So you're physically healthy and mentally alert at the same time. But sometimes having enough sleep is not guaranteed that you have no fear. Fear is generated inside. Fear is innate with us. So one time I was invited to speak to a big crowd, and I saw many speakers before me, and I thought, wow, what can I do? And I got a little scared, and then I tell myself, oh, don't get scared. If you get scared, you still need to talk. So now be yourself and talk. Just talk from your heart. Talk from you, real you, not the pretended you. So that's what I tell myself. Okay, I am me. I talk what I know. And that is real me. So it helped me to be more confident in my talking, even in a big crowd. That is just my small experience. So I would refer to the word Yonisamnyaskara and Ayonisamnyaskara. I would translate it into a rather simple definition: is the positive inner talk, the way you talk to yourself. The Venerable Caspar already translated in a very nice term, is by reflection. Yes, very nice translation. I would rather put it in simple practices, is the way you talk to yourself regularly, whether you talk positive or you talk to yourself negative. So the inner talk is important. If you talk to yourself positively, you act more positive thing than the negative inner talk. I would raise another case. Some young people came to the temple, and they had that kind of feeling, fear of so many things. And I listened to them, I talked to them, asked them something, and then I recall the Satipatthana Sutta, Jatanupassana Satipatthana, where the Buddha suggests us to acknowledge, to recognize the flow of the mind. So I tell them that, okay, fear is just the state of your mind. It comes and go. Don't hold it, okay? It's okay to be fear because that is there in your heart. You cannot fight with the fear because the fear is negative. If you have a negative feeling to fight the fear, it's double negative. So that's why I just tell them, okay, if fear arises, okay, be aware that, oh, my fear is arising, and let it come and let it go. Don't hold it. They just your visitors. Don't hold it. Don't stop it. Don't block it to stay with you for a long time. Just come. It just comes and goes. It comes and goes. That is the flow of the mind. So if you let it go, the fear goes. But if you stop it, the fear is with you more, and then it generates more fear and become phobia. So that is one thing I would take from the Satipatthana Sutta to be mindful of the state of the mind, the fear or anger or any other thing. But in this specific case, okay, be mindful of the state of the mind. Just let it comes and let it go. And I think that's my understanding to that point is similar to Kassapa. The main two things to practice in daily life in order to overcome fear, I think, is be mindful of what you are doing, what you are talking. Don't let the mind go around without observation. Just be aware of the state of your mind. Be aware of your daily activity. Be aware of what while you are talking, you are eating, you are going to the restroom or whatever in daily life. You need to put mindfulness into practice. Otherwise, the mind is wandering around, and that is cause a lot of trouble in life. So mindfulness is important. And the other thing I would say, the positive inner talk, or I would refer to the Buddhist term is Yonisau-manasikara, what the Venerable Kassapa already mentioned is wise reflection. So the way you talk to yourself, the way you gossip to yourself is very powerful. If you talk a positive word, you thought a positive thought, you still face the problem. And it helps you to move forward. Another point I would say in terms of Buddhism is about karma. If we fully understand the process of karma and the result of the karma, the fruit of the karma, we may not that much fear, because whatever happen for a reason. Even it is good or bad. If it is good result, if you face luck, I mean, if you get luck, or you are promoted, or whatever good situation happened to you, that is the result of your own action, of your own karma, either in the previous life or in this life. You acknowledge that is the result of your own action. And if you face problems, you face difficulty, you face challenges, or any other bad situation, be aware that it's also a result of bad action, either in the previous life or in this life. So when you have that understanding of the process of karma, the fruit or the result of karma, I think it can reduce the level of fear in your daily life. Thank you.
Sadhu Bhante for very detailed explanation about how to overcome fear and phobia in our daily life. And you talk about fear is like a visitor to your inner mind to your house. So you don't want to keep your visitor there all the time because they are not your residents. So let's not hold them in your house, let they come and let them go. So this is the nature of how we learn to let go of things. We know that we cannot avoid fears on daily basis, on daily life activities. We always face fear, either it is a small fear, big fear, positive or negative, but let them come and let them go, and learn to accept reality. Whatever arises, it arises due to the cause and sources, and it can be from your own action, your own karma, just like Venerable has already shared about that. And so being mindful of our daily life, daily activity is so important for us to cope with fear. And now, Venerable Kassapa on Khamra, since you are, you've been teaching meditation, Vipassana, so many places. How do you see Vipassana or Satipatthana could help one to overcome fear? Can you give one specific example in a situation where one is facing fear, and how do we take the reflection or taking the object of Vipassana to fight or to cope with fear based on that?
Thank you very much, Venerable Sir. So the same answer will be given to you, to the audience, like as Venerable Sopheap has mentioned. So mindfulness is very important. So the technique we use is like this. When we use the word mindfulness, or in Pali, sati, is not about just only aware or just only mindful of your thoughts and emotions. So, the role of mindfulness or awareness is to catch and to know or notice that now the fear is arising. So knowing is very important, in first step. But mindfulness alone is not enough. As I told you, you have to use the Yonaso Manasikara from the basic level, telling yourself that the fear is delusional. It is not real. It is not realistic. It is delusional. It means that we are cheated by our impure mind. So the fear is the result of impure mind. So when we, wisely, as Venerable Sopheap said, that talk to yourself, tell to yourself that what I am experiencing right now is not realistic, it's not real, it is delusional. So don't let myself be cheated by my own mind. So this is where the mindfulness and this is where the wise reflection work together. So this is the point that we use Vipassana, so we will see in a different way. So this is one point, like telling yourself that fear or phobia is delusional. Don't let yourself be cheated. And second point is, we use telling ourselves that the fear, whatever emotion, not only fear, whatever emotion arises, like when the mindfulness is strong enough, it notices it, and then the Yonaso Manasikara again, the wisdom, works, telling you that, okay, everything is impermanent, it's just arising and passing away, arising, passing away. So when we understand the process of our own emotion, not only referring to fear, to everything, that it has its own process, that just arising and passing away. So it's one technique. And the final one we use to reflect according to the three characteristics or three signatas. One is impermanent and suffering. So this is the state we accept the reality that the fear, if it is realistic, it is suffering. So the fear, the nature of fear is suffering. So we learn to accept it. And finally, at the first stage, we learn to say that it is impermanent. Second stage, we learn to say it is suffering. In reality, fear is suffering. It's what Buddha said. But finally, we learn to give it up, like we let it go. So it is called anatta because it is not mine. The fear is not mine. I am not in fear. So this is the state that we learn to let the fear go away. But let me elaborate this by there is a psychologist after practicing Vipassana meditation. He created a technique, we call it RAIN. So RAIN RAIN is R stand for recognition, and I is I forgot. I'm sorry. RAIN after R is I. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I. So I is integrity, and the A is acceptance. Okay, A acceptance, and N is non-reaction. Okay, so it is the RAIN formula. We call it RAIN formula. Recognition, integrity. I'm sorry, not inquiry, and then A is acceptance, and N stands for non-reaction. So this is what we use in meditation practice. Whatever emotion arises, you have to recognize it, and you have to inquire what does it come from. It come from the real situation, or it comes from the unreal situation. And the third stage, you have to accept it. That is the reality. So now I am in fear. Now I am in sadness. But the final one is N, non-reaction. You don't react. You don't respond. So that is why Buddhism emphasizes that the best reaction is non-reaction. So this is the way I have been trained, and we teach some foreign friends or some people to cope or to deal with any kinds of emotions, specifically here, fear. So thank you. That's all from me.
Satu Bante for adding some very important information with how we apply Vipassana or mindfulness to COVID fear, like you mentioned, about what you call wise reflection or wise attention, and what Master Sopheap would call positive inner talk. You just keep, telling yourself positive thinking. And as Honorable Kassapa already mentioned, that fear is the result from your impure mind. So try to cleanse our mind so that we can also get rid of fear and accepting reality, and not just simple reality, but ultimate reality, Paramatta Satya, according to the teachings of the Buddha. We see things through their, natural or ultimate characteristics like impermanence, anicca, dukkha, unsatisfactoriness that we have to face in daily life. And everything that we face is anatta, is non-self. It does not belong to us. It is not us. It is not you or any beings that exist in this concept. But this is just a created imagination out of our delusion as a patujana. So we don't normally see things through their natural or real characteristic. But if we see through this ultimate reality, then we learn to let go of things. We don't hold on to what is negative, or even fear can gradually vanish. So let me read some questions from the audience, as right now we are approaching the time. But let me just read from the message from the audiences. Miss Kuntia Hen. When the world faced a virus COVID-19, Buddhist monks chant the Ratana Sutta. What is the relevant to handle with fear? So, Venerable Sopheap, is Ratana Sutta really helps, or why the monks chant the Ratana Sutta? I see in many temples, even my own temple, also we do chanting this Sutta. What is the belief with this to fight the pandemic as well? Bante.
Okay, thank you. So when you have a calm mind, it's better to fight with the COVID. So I think the chanting may help you psychologically. I don't know. um, there's a debate on that, but I would say you chant, you feel good, you have a better emotion, you still practice hygiene, and if you do both, the physical hygiene and mental hygiene, it will help you to fight COVID better. That is what I can say.
Thanks. Thank you, Bante. So what about Kasupa? What is your idea concerning Ratana Sutta? Does it give any help to fight fear?
Yeah, absolutely. And as Venerable Vajrapanyoku Spirit mentioned, that it is very controversial when it comes to reciting Ratana Sutta with the intention, to cure the COVID-19. And the reason behind, reciting the Ratana Sutta is to calm down your mind, because in Buddhism, everything is mind. Everything is mind-made. So the purpose is, when we chant, one reason is monks, you will calm down your mind. And the people who are listening will calm down your mind, and they will have a confidence that, we are protected. Even it is not 100% correct that we are safeguarded by the chanting, but the purpose is, from my understanding, because I have been in Sri Lanka, I have been, in Burma, in some of these countries, especially the Tibetan tradition, Mahayana, they do the chanting a lot, and the purpose is, it's kind of expanding the purity across the environment is one thing they do, and even it is right or wrong, but the people, they are believe. So when we are in the state of not fear, when we are in the state of not fear, it is easy for us, to cope with any kinds of diseases. So one good example is, and that it was reported in and it was very famous throughout the world, that a group of Thai children stuck in a cave. So what they did is they practiced meditation and they do the chanting. So the purpose of chanting in Buddhism is not just cure the disease, but to cure your mentality and especially your fear, because as human beings, we are fear of dying, we are fear of torturing. So when we heard, like from China, that the COVID-19 is very dangerous, it is very chaotic, and everyone will die, because from the news, it seems like COVID-19 is a monster because it kills everyone in China. So, and when it comes to Cambodia, when it goes to Sri Lanka, even the monks, we might have the same feeling, but in reality, it's not like that, because in China, in Sri Lanka, in Cambodia, we have different environment. So by chanting, from my understanding, by chanting Ratana Sutta, from this point of view, is to calm down your mind, to cope with to deal with the fear, because when you are in fear, and we can say worry, you cannot do the right thing. Even you can't wash your hand properly, and you cannot cook properly when you are in fear. So this is the purpose of chanting, from this point of view. So that's all from me.
Satu Bante, that was very insightful and very interesting to learn about the meaning of chanting. And I could remember from my experience in childhood, whenever I was afraid of ghosts, so my grandparents used to tell me to recite Namo Tassa, So at the time when you feel like, oh, I'm very afraid of darkness, there might be a ghost, so I started to chant Namo Tassa Bhagavato, Namo Tassa Bhagavato, maybe repeatedly for several times. So we started to observe that fear gradually disappear, as time goes by, because and this is related with Yoniso Manasikara, because we turn our attention to positive thinking. So we started to recollect the attributes of the triple gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma. So it turns from fear to the shelter. We seek the mental shelter for our mind. So in the same way, I believe that by chanting, it would not treat COVID-19, but at least to calm down the mind, which is full of fear due to the COVID-19. And that's all what both Venerable has just shared. So I see so many questions have been raised, but I would read maybe one or two more because we are running out of time. Okay, from Sister Sopheap. When I was young, I was afraid of ghosts and dare not to walk in the room alone. But then I overcome that fear by believing that anything is not yet happening. We should not be afraid. So by accepting what it may come, facing what we have to face now, no worries of tomorrow is my way out of fear. Would this be the right way of overcoming fear? Venerable, can you give a short reply onto that, Venerable Vajrapanyo?
I would say yes. Okay, that's it from me.
Okay, so Venerable Kassapa, there are still questions. Let me read a little bit. I see so many questions, and I'm sorry that I cannot bring all the questions for the speakers. And okay, Sister Sakontim, can you explain in more detail how the chanting expands across the environment? How the chanting expand across the environment? Maybe the radiation of chanting, how does it affect the environment where we chant? Venerable Kassapa, can you give a quick answer to that?
Yeah, we need time to talk, to discuss this topic in detail. But anyhow, let me explain. I mean, even it is not mentioned in the scripture, but from the scientific research, it found that, I mean, our verbal reaction even to the water, our verbal action has a huge impact in the water. For example, I mean, the research is done in Japan. So just saying I love you, just saying I like you, just saying I am grateful to you, just saying I thank you, there is there are changes within the water. So from that point of view, in the light of scientific research, when we chant the Pali verses, because Pali verses are not like the normal words, said by every single of us. It is, we call it, it's a holy words of the Buddha. So from my understanding, the holy words of the Buddha are more pure and powerful than even we say, I thank you. I mean, if just saying thank you can make a huge impact in the water, so what about the Buddha's words? So that's all from me.
Thank you, Pante. That was very meaningful. And I can see Nyom Tina Prum from Philadelphia. She kept chatted to me a few times. Maybe she really want to know the answer. So I would give this to Venerable Vajrapanyo. How can we catch our mind because it is so fast, which leads us to fear, etc. Because of the mind too fast, we cannot catch on time. What technique you use to see that, like to catch up with the mind, the working process of the mind? Can you give an answer onto that, Pante?
You don't need to catch the mind. You just observe it, the flow. It comes and goes. And when it comes, okay, it comes, it arises. And when it goes, okay, it's gone. So that is, you cannot control, you cannot force it. I mean, you just observe the responsibility or the job of mindfulness to observe And as we've learned in Stipthana, there's two main things to be practiced in Stipthana is to state mindfulness, and Sampajanya refers to wisdom. So both are the two medicines to cure the mental illness. I would say that. So don't try to catch it, just to observe it, and then to be aware that it is arising, is passing away, and don't hold it, and be aware that everything is impermanent. It's come and goes. So don't be frustrated with the bad thing, because it's already it will be gone, and don't be overjoyed with the good, because it is gone sometime. So let it go.
Thank you, Master. So I hope Nyom Tina got the answer. Don't try to catch your mind, because we cannot catch the mind. And so what we do is to just observe it, be aware, observe it, whatever thinking arises in the state of mind, just observe it, self-observation. So this is about mindfulness, satipatthana, or vipassana. So we come to the end of the session, but before that, I would like to invite back to give your last message concerning with overcoming fear and phobia. Can you give a summary of the ways and method to overcome fear within just a few minutes? One day, please.
Thank you very much. As I have been explaining so far, and other speakers too, the fear is very innate and natural. And to cope with fear or overcoming fear or phobia, the most important thing is you have to practice every day, because you need the food to make your physicality stronger. In the same way, the mind need a positive food. So let yourself expose to a positive environment, positive, attitudes, and absorb more. Then you will be fine to cope with fear, and practice meditation. And my request is, if you want to cope with fear, please stop watching the horror movies and just watch only the good movies that can build up your right attitudes. Stop watching horror movie. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Sadhu, Pante. Thank you for sharing your final message concerning with how to overcome fear and phobia in our life. We realize that this is the basic things in our mental state, in our emotion, that we have to face fears. And so there are a lot of ways and methods that we can cope and overcome. So let's listen from Master Sopheap. What is your final advice concerning how to overcome fear and phobia? Please, Pante.
So my last message is associating with good friends also can help you. And listening to the Dharma regularly also can help you to reduce fear and other negative thoughts. Have some time to practice meditation. Short meditation in the morning or before going to bed also can help strengthen your mentality. Reading, watching, as Ms. Venerable Kaspa already mentioned, it can very much influence the state of the mind. So if you always watch negative news every day, or you have friends who always post drama, sad, and then you watch it, and every day you will copy the drama, you copy the sadness into your heart. So I think the external environment also can influence very much to your mind. So please be careful with what you bring to your mind. Please be careful with what you read, what you watch every day, because it's very much influence your mental state. Thank you.
Sadhu Pante for sharing your explanation and especially for your every contribution to our audience through this Dhamma Talk live show, and also thanks to Most Venerable Kassapa on Khamra for joining us today to discuss on this very specific matter of overcoming fear and phobia. And I hope that audience can get some idea, if not much, but at least to get some more understanding about what is fear and phobia, and sees the danger and disadvantage that it may cause and damage to our life, and at least try to practice the Dhamma or meditation on our daily life, so that we can have to overcome fear, to reduce fear. Of course, not totally get rid of fear, but to reduce it as much as possible, because it is the negative state of the mind that it arises, and it may cause some negative effect to our daily life as well. And I would like to also apologize for any shortcomings or any mistake I might have done during the show, either due to the lack of our knowledge or due to the intentional mistake that we may have done. So please apologize for these shortcomings. And last but not the last, we would like to also bring you all to listen to the Metta Bhavana. So I would like to invite all audience to practice and radiate loving kindness Metta Bhavana, which will be led by Most Venerable Kassapa. As we can see right now, he is capturing the image of the Buddha tooth relics enshrined in the Cambodian Vipassana Turya of the Kingdom of Cambodia near Phnom Odong. And this tooth relics of the Buddha has been donated by the government of Sri Lanka. So I can feel the delightness and devotion by seeing the Buddha tooth relic from afar. So let us rejoice in the merit that we are collecting, that we've been accumulating through this Dhammatana. May all beings be happy. And I would like to invite Venerable Kassapa to lead the Metta Bhavana. Please, Venerable.
Thank you very much, Venerable Sir. It's time for us to practice loving friendliness meditation to strengthen our mind to overcome the fear. Please find a very comfortable posture. You can be seated in the chair or in the bed. It's okay as long as you find yourself very comfortable. Keep your body straight and take a very deep breath 3 times, just to relax your body and mind. Breathing in, breathing out, slowly and mindfully. When it is done, let your breath flow as the way it is. Now, just merely observe your breath. Breathing in, breathing out, while you are listening to my Metta Pali chanting. Ahang averomi ambyapajomi anegomi sukhi attanang pariharami. Now, please create a very tender smile on your face. Please honestly smile. You are a very happy person with a smiling face. While you are smiling, please be mindful, be aware of the meanings of the phrases which I am about to recite. May I be well and happy. May I be free from hatred. May I be free from ill will. May I be free from suffering. May I be free from fear and phobia. May I take care of myself happily. May my family members be well and happy. May my family members be free from fear and phobia. May every human being in the world be free from fear and phobia. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you very much. May you be well and happy. Before opening your eyes, please take a very deep breath 3 times and relax yourself. Have a very sound sleep. Good night. From Cambodia.